Welcome back to the Buzz, everybody here at Buzzworthy Radio. I am Novell J. Lee, and forgive me, my voice is starting to go out, come back in because I'm just getting over a spring cold because that's what happens when weather is 80 degrees and then goes back to 55 degrees and it's raining and it's coldy and it's windy. So if my voice starts to sound robotic like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, that's why. So I wanted to give you that preface before we start and introduce our guest today, who is the Senior Director of Development and Current Programming at Vice Media. Meghan Payne is joining me right now to talk about Soccer's American Dream that premieres on Cinco de Mayo. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, and I hope you feel better soon.
I am trying to. I don't I feel like it's a mixture of cold and allergies, and that's a
I get
bad
it.
combination right now. So I'm trying to get through. But you know what? I woke up and I get to do this, so I'm happy.
And I'm excited to talk about soccer. It's my favorite sport in the world, so
Not only is your favorite sport, but correct me if I'm wrong, but did you were you also a player in the game?
I was, yeah. I played basically my entire life. I grew up in rural Vermont, so there wasn't a lot to do except for play sports and be outside. And yeah, soccer was my dream. And I'm very excited to actually make a doc about soccer and show my love for the beautiful game with everyone else.
So how long did it take for this docuseries to come into fruition for the idea and getting because you had a lot of prominent players and commentators that were involved in this. So how long did it actually take to get off of the ground floor?
Yeah, I would say it was about 6 months of just really intense development and working with our team over at Vice Studios. I developed this with Joe Ingham, who is a creative and loves soccer just as much as I do. So it was really exciting to get to work with him. This originally started off as a doc on the '94 World Cup. That in and of itself
Mm,
is an entire story. You have Diana Ross taking the first PK, which was
yes.
amazing. And that was also the same day that OJ was on the run. So it was
Yeah.
a clash of everything going on culturally in America. So it was really exciting. But as we kind of looked into it, I mean, soccer has had 170 years of history here in the US, which is pretty wild when you start to look at how many people actually got into soccer once the '94 World Cup actually happened. And so we really wanted to go back to the original days. If anyone remembers the Cosmos in New York City, that was a huge time for soccer. And so we really went back to the '80s and kind of the idea of bringing in players to the US to make soccer big here because we just didn't have the talent yet.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, so we went back to the 1980s, started developing from there. And then we went into the '94 World Cup and we realized, hey, there's just so much rich history here. And soccer would not be what it is in America without the women. And so we also dove deep into the women. And right now, there's a lot of docs out there that talk about the '94 World Cup and the men's national team. And we really wanted to be the people that also talked about the history of the women's team
Yeah.
because they made such an impact.
I wanted to bring that up about the women because it does dive deep into the docuseries. A lot of it, especially when you're starting off when you're talking about it, not many people were invested in the women's team in the beginning. You get to see how no one showed up for them, and then all of a sudden they became really pivotal in the game towards the run of the docu-series. So I love to see that the evolution, and I love the fact that it plays upon the fact that there were even interview clips with Jimmy Kimmel in particular, where he says, "Why is it that you guys are better than the men?" And honestly, I'm like, because women are better than the men.
Love to hear that. Well, you had
They
Christine.
can do. I mean, I listen. I love women, and I give my love to the women all the time, because they can do everything and then some. I'm the guy that literally, in no uncertain terms, unabashedly, when I have man flu, I own the fact I have a man flu. You women can literally have the flu. You could be on death's door and you're literally out there taking the kids to school, doing everything, working the 9 to 5, all of that stuff. And I just sit here and I applaud it because I'm just going like they have the stamina that most men, unfortunately or fortunately, don't really acknowledge.
We appreciate the support. That's the best part of about this. And it was interesting listening to players talk about, they would be in economy with their kid on their lap flying to go play in a World Cup game, and just kind of thinking about the treatment that the women got versus the men. And the women were the top seed in the world. And
Yeah.
it was really exciting listening to Christine Lilly talk about the 99ers, and how far they came. Like, they were selling their own tickets on the street. They were being like, hey, come watch us play. And now look at them. It's just wild to see where they came from. And really it's because they had diehard fans that came up and supported them, and they all supported themselves and really believed in themselves. And so it's such a Cinderella story in that way, and really seeing where they came to where they are now. I mean, it's really inspiring. And when I was growing up, being a professional soccer player was never something that was at the career fair, and now it is. And that's just
Yeah.
like, it's just so exciting.
When you're watching this, obviously we do get to see all the triumphs that happened with soccer for both the men and the women, but also on the women's side of it, you're also seeing all of not just the triumphs, but also what they had to endure in order to get to that triumph. The one thing that stuck out in particular was that they had to deal with misogynistic views and people who were in no uncertain terms treating them in ways that a woman should not be treated. So the fact that this is addressing those types of behind the scenes involvements, I'm trying not to use a word that I want to use right now because I'm trying to be very, very good.
Like,
Trying
I got you. I got you.
to be good. But just the fact that we were able to even see this be addressed and having everybody talk about this, I think that needed to be shown and that needed to be addressed
Yeah.
because, like me, I never knew what goes on and how these teams evolve and how these teams are made and what makes the team and makes them cohesive. And here we are seeing all of those steps, but we're also seeing what they had to endure in order to get to those
Yeah.
to get to those wins. So when that was addressed and when you were able to have this be a part of the docuseries, what was going through your mind? Was that something that you wanted to bring to the forefront? Was that already in your mind, or was that discovered as you kept going through the motions and going through the process of crafting the doc?
Yeah, that was a conscious decision when we started making this. We started out with this 94 World Cup film, and then we broadened it out to a six-part series. And so when we were thinking about the six-part series, we wanted to dedicate episodes to the men's game and the women's game. We wanted to give them the full 44 minutes to tell their story because it was so important to us. Vice is always at the forefront of culture and community, and that was something you can't talk about the men's national team without talking about the women's national team, and
Right.
what they did to put soccer on the map in the US and also just globally. And so that was a huge consideration. And that was something that we saw also, other docs that were coming out weren't mentioning the women. And I, as a fan and also as a player, that just felt like such a miss number for me. And that I really wanted to tell that story. And so we got amazing voices from Christine Lilly to Midge Purse to be able to really showcase where they've come from, the
Yeah.
old guard and the new guard. And so it was really great being able to talk to these women and understand what they came from, and how the culture is now, which is just leaps and bounds from what it used to be.
Would you say this is a perfect tie-in for the fact that the FIFA World Cup is going to be here in the US? That this is premiering in time for that? Was that? I feel like a part of me wants to know selfishly, was that also a conscious decision?
It was, and then the Women's World Cup coming up real soon as well. So yeah, it came at a perfect time for us. So we launched into sports last year, and a big thing that we always talked about is internationally, where can we kind of claim our stake in the world of sports? And soccer was always at the forefront of our mind. It's it just this story just felt so Vice because soccer's American dream is really community coming together, these diehard fans coming together to bring the World Cup here in '94. And the fact that it's coming back this year we were just so excited about that. And how can we be a part of that story? And the way for us to be a part of that story is to tell a story about community.
Yeah.
And that really is what soccer's American dream was all about. And so, yes, we tried to kind of figure out that pipeline and get this right out there in front of the World Cup. We also wanted to be able to give our audience a utility right before the World Cup so that they could feel like an expert in the room when they're at watch parties, when they hopefully get a ticket to the World Cup, and they can be like, I found out that, the '94 World Cup was the first time that we had been in it in 40 years and
Yeah.
qualified in 40 years. And so we really want to make sure our audiences feel like experts. And so this series was also a utility to really kind of give everyone the rich history of the men's history and the women's history coming up on that.
I love that you said that because I wanted to touch back on that point too, because this was also a question of mine was what did you learn yourself? I know that you were a player in the game as well, and you're also a fan of it, but what was it that you learned about soccer while you were crafting this doc? Was there anything that surprised you, or was there anything that you kind of sat back and went, oh, I never realized this about the game as you were diving more into it?
Yeah, there were a lot of never before heard stories from players that I just didn't realize how much they really went through trying to qualify for the '94 World Cup. I mean, they almost didn't qualify, which is
Mm,
wild to think about. They could have not been in their own World Cup, which
right.
is pretty wild. And one of the qualifying games, Tab Ramos talks about how he was taking most of the corner kicks, and this was
I
in
remember that
Central
part.
America, and he was getting pelted with batteries and coins. And another player,
Yep.
Desmond Armstrong, was talking about getting thrown bags of piss. I mean, they endured so much just to qualify for the. This was actually sorry. This was for the Italy World Cup to qualify for the Italy World Cup, and I mean, it was just wild listening to these stories of these players that are representing our country and they're getting pelted with coins and batteries trying
Yeah.
to qualify. I think the other thing for me, I didn't realize what went in to the grass that's on the field.
I was thinking the same thing.
I never would have crossed my mind how much energy went into crafting that grass that we played on in the '94 World Cup. And we tracked down the grass scientist Trey Rogers, who has made it his life's work to create this grass. And it was one of the most fascinating conversations and journeys that we went on during this series, is understanding what went behind that. It's yeah, I don't want to give too much away because I think it's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much went into the actual grass that they played on.
Yeah, that was also, as I mentioned, that was intriguing to me too, because when I saw that, I had no idea how much preparation went into
Yes.
went into that. And your story before, even I was commenting, I was going, yeah, I remember listening to that. That was probably the point where I shot up from the bed and I was just like, wait, what did I just hear? Because
Yep.
that to me, I could not believe that this player literally had to endure having all of this happen to him, where he was getting thrown all of these asinine things at him.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here going like, this is absolutely crazy to me. I can't understand. And I'm also sitting here going like, I thought we Philadelphia Eagles fans were bad. That's bad.
I
Think of
went
a
to school
whole
in
other
Philly, so I
moniker,
get it. Yeah.
whole other beast right
Yeah.
there. Why why do you think in your opinion did it probably take so long for fans to really love the game so much?
I
Because
th yeah.
it took some time to really show appreciation for it. And you know, we around here we love Union, we love Duke and everything. So it's a big thing for us here in Philly. But
Mhm.
why do you think that it took some time?
I think for a long time it was a joke. I think people kind of saw soccer as something that you played as a kid and then you grew up into a football fan or an NBA fan, and
Yeah,
you never really thought about soccer in a on the main stage. And I think for a really long time it was just, oh, youth sports game that everyone plays and then you grow out of. And I think for a very long time we weren't number one and we weren't, that American, beating everyone. And I think there was
Mhm.
like a little bit of American pride that, why would we want to get behind a game that we're not the best at? I mean, we literally created football to be the best at something.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit of that kind of throughout the years of just like, this is just a joke. I mean, they couldn't even point out what a soccer ball was. There
Yeah.
was literally a news segment about, putting a basketball, a soccer ball, and a football together, and which one's the soccer ball. And
Hmm.
so I think for a long time the media made it a joke, and no one really could get on that wagon. And I also think there was never kind of a pipeline for kids to become a professional soccer player. And so if you're not seeing, your idols playing this game, why would you want to enter into it? And for me, once I saw Mia Hamm and David Beckham step onto the field, I was like, wait a second, like this is actually something that I can aspire to be. And so I think for a really long time, it was kind of a perfect storm of there's not enough fandom, there's not enough pride, and then on top of that, I can't I can never be this player on the field. And so I think for a long time, just that formula just really kind of worked against soccer in
It's
America.
it's interesting because, as you were discussing that kind of, and again, I don't want to give too much away, but that was discussed in the doc as well about how we have football, we have basketball, we have these sports where people tend to look as they feel like it's more of a sport than that of soccer. I mean, the same could be said for bowling, and I love bowling, and bowling is in no uncertain terms, guys, a sport. So
Nope.
it's
Wholeheartedly agree.
it's a sport. I love that game, but to me, I think of sports as you have to have some kind of stamina. You have to have some kind of, I can't think of the word that I want to use for that, but you have to have some kind of skill set
Yeah.
in order to kick the ball into a net so that the goalie cannot, so the goalie cannot block it. You still have to
Yeah.
have some sort of stamina. You still have to have hand-eye coordination. You still have to have
Hmm.
all those things that you would have in football, that you would have in basketball, that you would have in bowling.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, and it's physical, and it's a physical thing. And that's why I'm sitting here going, I don't understand why people didn't think it was a sport, but I also felt, I think at the time they looked at it as not, and I hate saying this, but also this kind of also tunes back into what we discussed earlier about misogyny. I don't think people felt like it was a manly sport.
Yes, that was a big thing. Pablo, one of our sports journalists, he talks about the fact that, yeah, it was looked down upon when it came to kind of the ranks of sports. And also to your point, we also tried to change the game of soccer too, to make people get more excited about it here in the US, which is the
Yeah,
most American thing possible, that we want to take this 100-year-old sport and change it. There was an idea that we could potentially punch the ball into the goal, and that would be like a new fun way for people to watch soccer. And
right.
so instead of like trying to grow talent here in the U.S. and really kind of like you make this a DNA of America, we brought in foreign players like David Beckham to play in the MLS. And we also wanted to change the actual game. So we never really let it be what it needed to be here in the US. And, I'm really excited with the World Cup and Christian Pulisic. I think he is, homegrown talent for us. And that's really exciting. And people are really looking to him. This year, I would love if he would come and play for the MLS and bring bring the fans back here. But hopefully names like that will really start to garner attention.
Let's manifest it. Let's manifest it.
Yeah.
And we gotta end it with the question. I have to ask it: football or soccer?
I I have to say soccer. I have to say soccer. I have a lot of British friends that try to correct me every day, but as a person who played soccer my whole life, I have to be true.
I'm 100% behind you. It's soccer. I'm
I
sorry,
appreciate.
not sorry. It's soccer.
I'm not sorry either. We made it American. It's soccer.
It's soccer. We have football and it's NFL.
Yes,
Soccer,
exactly.
this is this. This is soccer. So I'm excited for all of you to watch it. This was very enlightening and eye-opening for me. So please, when it drops on May 5th at 9 p.m. on Vice TV, check it out. You're gonna learn some things about the game that you probably never would have expected to know. And Megan, I appreciate your time and talking with me about this. This was fun. I hope we get to do this again.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.